I'm Susan Harris. Welcome. For those of you who are new, I'm here representing Merit Network, which is based at the University of Michigan. As you've all heard, we held an important community meeting last night to talk about the need for ongoing change at NANOG. It was a great meeting, a lot of good input, a lot of stuff. From what I've heard last night, transparency was an important theme, and I got three main areas where we need to rethink what we've been doing there. One area is budget. You'd like to know what Merit's doing with your registration fees, and those numbers will be coming back to you soon. The second area of transparency was the mailing list. I do moderate the mailing list. I don't know if I've gotten more transparent in the last couple of months, but I have eased up a lot. And the messages I've sent since mid-November or so have all been to people using obvious pseudonyms, or sometimes it's someone who's just forgetful, like they send in a message under network.security at their ISP, whereas we would like to know who they are. So people are very responsive to those messages and add their SIG files to the messages. But sometimes it's just, goop, somebody who's coming in under something fake. Anyway. So that's the second level of transparency. The third is the program committee, and Steve Feldman, who's on the committee and who's moderating this morning, did a wonderful presentation representing our process for picking talks. And that presentation will be up on the web today. And Dan, I saw you a minute ago. Dan Golding is one of the people who represented the reform community last night. Dan, if you're here, send me your slides. I have Betty's slides, so they will be up today. In any case, as far as transparency in the program committee, this is one of the slides that Steve showed last night that I think people were very interested in. 19 proposals submitted for this meeting. That is low. We usually get 30 to 35. January, February is generally the lowest time for proposals. I don't know why. This time, I think we were particularly close to the last meeting. So out of those 19, we accepted 14, rejected 4, accepted 1 tentatively, which means that I consolidated the program committee's comments and reported them back to the speaker. The speaker changed their talk accordingly, and we accepted it. There were 5 late submissions. These we consider if they are extremely relevant, very timely, or of very high quality. And 4 of those we did accept this time. If you're curious about what happened and you don't read the mailing list, which is really unlikely because a couple of people have sent out notes, these are the faces to look for, to speak with. Actually, don't look for Paul. He's headed home already, but he's available in email. Our other moderator last night was Martin Hannigan. This is kind of a weird photo, isn't it? But he's here. He's still here. He'll be here throughout the meeting, as will Dan. And the other person to talk with, I think, is probably recovering from probably being in the ballroom till about 4 a.m. But that's Betty Burke, my manager at Merit, who is responsible for everything NANOG at Merit, as someone put it last night. So they're all available to talk with you, and I am too, and so is the rest of the program committee. And those names, if not faces, are on the web. Go to the main page, click on general information, and towards the bottom there you'll find a list of program committee people. So some numbers to absorb here. One thing I'm never quite sure comes across on this chart, the universities, colleges, and NAPs, those numbers represent entities, whereas the other numbers represent individual people like you and me. Numbers slightly down this time. Again, I think that might be because we were pretty close to the last meeting. Our usual dismal percentage of women, but there is good news there. I know all of you eagerly await the arrival of Network World in your mailbox every week and read it cover to cover. In December, you probably saw there a thing about the 50 most powerful people in networking. It was nice to see that 6 of those were women, and 2 of them are here. I haven't actually seen Leslie yet today. She'll be speaking tomorrow on behalf of the IETF, but Kay Claffey is a longtime member of our program committee. Again, occupations compared from last time and this time. These stay pretty steady. Generally, about half of you are ISPs, 20% of you are vendors, and the rest of you are the famous other categories. Some of those you see listed here. I paid a little more attention to this time. It was kind of interesting. I saw the denial of service companies. The exchange points generally identify themselves as other. We have a handful of Homeland Security people here, Secret Service, ICANN, an investment company, and so on. So that's 30% of you. And again, our numbers stay pretty much the same. 80% of you are commercial usually, or rather represent commercial companies, and 20% of you don't. So this is 4 meetings worth, not exactly consecutive, but yeah. Michael Dillon sent a very interesting message to the list in December. He said when he's looking for information on a topic, and he knows he's heard it at some point at NANOG, he Googles for Merritt's address plus the topic. So if you do that, you need to know we have a new address. It's on all our web pages. We moved over the holidays. And of course, there's always the index to resort to if you're really desperate. No, seriously, the index is good, and unfortunately it hasn't made it, the rest of the talks haven't made it in, but they will. I don't think this particular search brings up the mail archives. It's just talks. I'd like to highlight Sprint for a minute. They brought in an entire OC3 for the meeting to the hotel, a very generous amount of connectivity, and this is not the first time. They have been doing this going way back to our Oakland meeting in 2001. A lot of people from Sprint worked hard to make this happen over the years, and this time it was Ted Seeley who made it happen. So we're grateful for that. I assume it was someone from Sprint who started that applause. Just kidding. Joel Yeagley from the University of Oregon, again, someone to thank over and over again for coming out and heading up our Multicast broadcast with assistance from folks from Cisco, Juniper, and ISC. The Measurement Factory, as well, someone to thank for sending out Dwayne Wessels time after time from Boulder to help us with various important services. Dwayne gave a tutorial a couple times ago on IPsec. He is ready and willing to talk with you today. He's sitting in the front row here, and we'll be having a tutorial on that next time. That's something that we want to that's something we want to continue to push. Force 10 has been wonderful at regularly feeding us for our Monday afternoon breaks, and they're doing it again today. We're very grateful for that level of support. Here are the moderators who will be guiding us through our sessions as we glide from talk to talk. Steve is the first. Steve, you remember last May, hosted us on behalf of CNET, famous person in the internet going way back for his work in exchange points. Other famous people here, Elise Garrick, co-founder of NANOG, who's now at Juniper. Sue Hares, who is a different person than me, ran the meetings that preceded NANOG at Merritt, the regional text meetings. She's now at NextHop. I know there will be a gasp of surprise from the audience when I tell you that our wireless network is not secure. What a surprise. It's up to you to take care of your own traffic. Do not send plain text over the network to your home network because it can be picked up so easily. Instead, encrypt. Use some kind of layer 7 authentication, a VPN client, or use SSH. Now, speaking of thank you, this is the 4th time Rodney Joffe has hosted us, and here he is.
Anyone know how to work on Mac?
Yeah, there are a lot of people.
Just trying to find out how to get the video going.
Maybe you want to come up.
Yes, not. He's not in his. Okay. Just want to try and get the presentation up. Not sure how to do that. Just the video. Welcome to Nanog. As Sue said, it is my full time. It's actually the fifth that I've been involved. The first thing I'm going to do is tell you what you get for your $1.95. Those of you who were at the meeting yesterday evening and listened to some of the other folks who hosted, this is what you get for $1.95. You get a host that takes care of little bits and pieces that may be invisible to you. The folks that help with registration, the people helping with the wireless card, organizing locally. The only thing that I'd suggest is that if you're going to host, make sure that you do it in the same city that you operate in. One of the problems this time is that, and some of you may have asked why it's in Vegas, we got notice very late on that the host who was going to be taking care of it wasn't able to do it. I'm based in Phoenix, but unfortunately this is the peak season in Phoenix. You need to have room for probably 300 rooms and 500 people, and about 12 or 14,000 square foot of ballroom area. There was nowhere in Phoenix that was available. So you're stuck with Vegas. One of the other requirements, by the way, is if you're going to be doing the January-February one, I've learned after doing it now I think 3 times that for some reason the folks at Merritt in Michigan have a requirement that it be in the warmth. So if you're going to host it, think about the seasons. Don't offer to do it in Phoenix in the summer, and don't really offer to do it in Michigan in the winter. There is, from a network point of view, I can't get the drawing up, but we will try and put it on the website, if you can. Just key things to actually get the diagram. But from a network point of view, the way the network is set up is from this war room over here. This is, as you may have noticed, you have to actually plan ahead if you want to get down to the conference area. It takes a little bit of time to get down here. And I'm sorry I didn't bring my Segway this time. It was not that useful in Salt Lake, but it would have been real useful here. So from a distance point of view, the run goes from this network, sorry, this room is actually a MDF underneath us. That run is actually a multimode fiber. Goes through 3 hops. It's 2,700 feet to the Sprint DMARC. That's done over multimode fiber. From the telco DMARC, there is a Juniper M5. The Juniper M5 has an OC3 connection to Sprint, and from Sprint it's OC3 back to their facility here in Vegas over an OC48. So this is predominantly fiber all the way through. Sprint did an incredible job. Not very much notice. There were some logistical issues when you work with a large facility like this, and Sprint came through. Sprint were able to get the OC3 in place. They provided native multicast, I believe, as well as IPv6. So a key thing if you're thinking of hosting, try and make sure that you choose a location that is reasonably communications friendly. In the past, I've had to, if you remember from the last one, I think I used a microwave. It was stuck up on the roof using some tsunami bridges. The time before that, we were stuck with trying to bond T1s together. The location is real important. Just as a final thing, if you do want to go ahead, I think it's all touch, so I'm not worry about it. If you do want to host, please don't avoid hosting because you think that it's really difficult. It's not. It's not like trying to set up an MPLS network. It's much simpler. All you need is a bit of planning, a little bit of time, and not that much money. It doesn't cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. You can do it for a reasonable amount. But it's really important if you want to get involved, volunteer. Come and talk to Sue and some of the others at the end of this conference. If your company is thinking of doing it, it's not that difficult. You can talk to Pete Krukenberg from UEN, who I helped, and he'll tell you that it wasn't that difficult. It's actually reasonably enjoyable, and it also does some good stuff for your company. So beyond that, there are 3 people that I really want to thank. Let's see if I can find them. Well, Aaron Dudek from Sprint, so Ted Seeley, Wes George, and Aaron Dudek, who really worked. I think a couple of them weren't even going to be coming to the conference, but they flew in to make sure the network worked. So if you guys at the end of this will at least give them a round of applause, as well as Tom Pusateri from Juniper. who stepped up and gave us an OC3 card. We couldn't find one, and he was able to get an OC3 card for us reasonably quickly. So besides that, welcome to Vegas, and hopefully you guys won't be suckered. Last night I was invited to go and play poker. And the thing that I will tell you is that this is not the place to casually sit down and play poker. The World Poker Tournament is going on, and the guys from the poker tournament have nothing to do in the evenings. So they sit around and they ask people if they'd like to play a little bit of poker. The guys you're playing are ringers. Don't play with them. Besides that, enjoy the conference, and hopefully you guys will be able to come to the next one as well.